So, to anyone who's wondering, this build is actually based on one that ZNA Productions did. That's not really a proper grammar. No, it had done, or something like that. Anyway, he did one of these probably about a year ago, maybe, where he made a heater shield. And ultimately, I think he did it right, and I kind of wanted my own. So I figured I'd make a video of me building one too. But it is definitely going to be done more or less the same as his. I have a kind of a jig made up here. It's a couple 2x4s and scrap wood. Just stuff I had lying around. I'm going to have one piece of a 1/4-inch oak plywood just laying across the top with a second piece glued on top of it using just some just wood glue, a lot of it. And then have some weight pushing it down to where it's a nice curve in it. Historically speaking, plywood isn't really too different than what was actually used. I know a lot of like Viking shields, and I'm assuming most others were made from just laminated wood, which is essentially what plywood is. Of course, you know, Vikings can go to their local hardware store and pick up something like this. They had to and make it themselves. But ultimately, for something that's cheap and easy to get a hold of, might as well use it. No sense in overcomplicating things too much. So, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and get started and make myself a shield. Well, you get the picture. And this is how you improvise a bunch of weights. This is just a bunch of scrap steel I have for making blades out of. And I think it's doing a pretty good job. Okay, so let me take a step back here so you can actually see it. My board now has a nice curve in it. It's about the right thickness, maybe a little thin for an actual medieval shield. I didn't look up how thick they're supposed to be beforehand. But, well, it's not like I'm going to actually use this against an opponent, I guess. I mean, in most fights now, it's a shield doesn't really do a whole lot of good. Because they're either probably going to reach with a fist or a gun. Anyway, it's not important. This is for fun. But, I don't know if you can really tell, but the way it's made is that it's, at the bottom it's flatter. So, here is domed, but then the bottom's not. So it's, you know, it's deeper here than it is at the bottom. I did that because a lot of shields I've seen are actually set up that way. I don't know if it's supposed to look like they've been carved out or what, or they're from video games and they don't follow logic. But anyway, what I'm going to do is draw my design onto my piece of plywood here, and then just take a jigsaw and cut it out. And in between me cutting this out and going to this next step, I took a drink of my drink that I have out here. Didn't realize that it's one that's been sitting out here for a while until I drank part of it and realized it had a weird dirt and sawdust taste. Oh, that was gross. Yeah, that's how my day's going. Anyway, so now what I'm gonna do is take this farrier's rasp and just kind of clean up a lot of the shape. As you kind of see here, it kind of goes off, and you know, it's kind of refine it a little bit. Okay, and there we go. The slightly not exactly symmetrical, but really close enough, and I don't care enough to really fix it. Heater shield. Although holding it up, it's almost the size of a kite shield. I mean, it's not quite that long because I'm not tripping over while walking, but you know, still pretty good. Now what I'm gonna need to do is get some sort of fabric to put over it. I know ZNA Productions, I think, used canvas. I think historically, like, leather and rawhide was used. I'll probably just go to Walmart and see whatever I can find. You know, which will probably just be some sort of like cotton-based, cheap fabric. Then of course I'll probably paint my maker's mark on it, because if I'm gonna fight under a symbol, it's gonna be my own. Okay, so now that I have everything cut out, I have this canvas-ish material kind of draped over it. It's just fabric from Walmart, so it's nothing really special. I was gonna like cut it to shape, so I had some scrap, but there's really not a ton here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some fiberglass resin, paint it over the wood, put my fabric over it, you know, mat it down, and paint another layer of resin on top of that.
I just had to trim it down to make it fit better. Clearly I made the wrong choice.
And now we wait a while, because this stuff takes forever to dry. About 24 hours, actually. Which, by the time we get back out here, will be, you know, tomorrow night. Because I have a job. Unfortunately. Okay, so it's actually been a couple of days. Still isn't completely hardened. But the ideal temperature, I think, for these is more like 70. It's been about 40 out. But it's mostly hardened, so I'm going to go ahead and go with it. And before I really go to do much more, I'm going to put these tacks just kind of around the outside to kind of help hold everything down and give it a little bit of, you know, extra look. I just kind of eyeballed some holes on one side. I'll probably just throw them on the other side and hope it looks good. And once I get that done, I'm going to go ahead and make the handle, and then I should just have to paint it. Okay, so for this next part, I'm going to make the back handle, back handle, while I'm waiting on the rest of that to dry so I can paint it. Basically, I just cut up old leather, or not old leather, it's technically new, but cheap leather belt, to where I'm going to have them, for me, probably positioned about, you know, here, so X'd out with my hand underneath them. I kind of looked up in the original video that I'm basing this build on. He actually, I think, used something very similar, just better quality belts. And I also found some historical pictures, or, well, pictures that were other people had made. They used something similar. I think they were using kite shields, though, which this is essentially a shrunken down version anyway. But basically, gonna have them X'd out with some screws. Right here, just short ones. Only short ones I could find, unfortunately. And some E6000 epoxy. This stuff's pretty tough and easy to work with. Takes forever to dry, but once it sticks, it basically needs melted off, which is why I quit using it for handle pins, because it melted when they got heated up. But should work well for these purposes. Yeah. It's been an off week.